Hello and thank you for joining me. In this presentation, I'll be reflecting on the essential concepts of positionality, reflexivity, and researcher as instrument within qualitative research. These concepts are foundational in ensuring ethical, trustworthy, and aligned research practices. As I prepare for my dissertation journey, this reflection helps strengthen my awareness of my role and responsibilities as a qualitative researcher. These are the points that we'll be covering in the presentation. Reflexivity as central to qualitative research. Reflexivity is a core principle in qualitative research because it acknowledges and actively engages with the reality that the researcher is not a neutral observer. In qualitative inquiry, the researcher is the primary tool for collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data, making their values, beliefs, background, and experiences influential in shaping the research process and findings. Versus in quantitative research, you are looking at numbers, data, percentages, etc. Here we have a very fundamental quote regarding the topic being discussed. Bloomberg and Volpe. As the instrument of data collection and data analysis, reflexivity must remain an active, intentional, and ongoing awareness to address, monitor, and act on your role as a researcher and the significant impact that you have on your research, particularly with regard issues regarding interpretation and representation. As a qualitative researcher, you will need to ensure that you're thinking more deeply about the potential impact of all of the choices you make regarding your study's design, including identification, justification, and limitations for all methodological choices, and what might be your underlying explicit or implicit biases and assumptions and why. Here we have a graphic visual. The model of emotional intelligence for qualitative researchers illustrates the interaction between self-awareness and empathy. So you do have the four ideas: act with integrity, collaborate, communicate, mentor others. You start your study by identifying questions or problems, select the methodology and methods. In this case would be the qualitative research, review the ethics, access participant data, collect and assemble data, so on and so forth. However, this whole process is ongoing and continuous. You start by identifying questions and problems. You move on to selecting your methodology and methods. The design study, you start collecting and assembling your data, access participants and data sources, review ethics, analyze data, interpret data, write up, and disseminate data. At the end of the day, you are adding to the research out there. What are you contributing with your research to what is there? And for the peers that are going to be continuing this, what does it add to the discussion? Terminology. The terminology we are focusing on is positionality, reflexivity, and researcher as instrument. Positionality refers to the social and political context that shapes the identity of the researcher, such as race, gender, class, education, and experiences, and how these elements influence my perspective as a researcher. Understanding positionality helps me recognize how my background may impact the research process. Reflexivity is the ongoing process of critically reflecting on my role in the research, especially how my assumptions, values, and beliefs may shape the study. It requires me to be transparent and continuously self aware throughout the research journey. For example, again, it's a continuous going back and forth and really defining your researcher as an instrument. It's acknowledging that in a qualitative research, I am the primary tool through which the data is collected and interpreted. My interpretations, my interactions, and decisions play a central role in shaping the study's outcome. So, my positionality as a researcher. Reflecting on my positionality, I recognize that my educational background, cultural identity, and professional experiences all inform my worldview. For example, if I'm studying educational leadership in urban schools, my experiences in that system may enhance my empathy, but also introduce bias. Uh, Acknowledging this positionality allows me to better understand my power and privilege in relation to the participants and ensures that I don't unintentionally marginalize voices that differ from mine. Being transparent about who I am helps participant trust the process and helps reader evaluate through the study through the lens. Reflexivity techniques to reduce bias. To reduce potential bias, I will use several reflexivity techniques in my dissertation. Reflexive journal. Through the research process, I'll maintain a journal where I can record my personal reflections, emerging thoughts, and emotional reactions. This helps surface unconscious biases and allows me to examine my influence on the study. Memo writing during the analysis, writing analytical memos that later on I'll go ahead and interpret. This really does help when you're starting to encode your data, identify themes, and so on. Member checking by returning to participants to verify interpretations of their statements. I want to invite them to confirm or correct my understanding, perhaps adding extra information or clarifying, but really adding another layer of accountability and accuracy. These techniques will promote credibility and confirmability in my study. Again, so as the researcher, seeing myself as the instrument for my research and my potential dissertation study, I expect to conduct in depth interviews with participants to explore their lived experiences. As the researcher, I am not a passive observer, I am an active participant in the shaping data through my questions, my presence, my interpretations. Recognizing that I am the research instrument compels me to approach the study with integrity, empathy, and critical self awareness. This also means that I must be well prepared, consistent, and ethical in how I interact with the participants and interpret findings. Ethical considerations. Finally, addressing positionality, reflexivity, and researcher as instrument supports core ethical principles in qualitative research. First, it ensures respect for persons being honest and transparent with participants. It supports justice by striving for inclusivity and awareness of power imbalances. It upholds beneficence by aiming to minimize harm through intentional and reflective practices. These ethical foundations will guide my dissertation study and reinforce its integrity and trustworthiness. In conclusion, embracing the roles of my positionality, reflexivity, and researchers as instrument is not just a methodological necessity, it's an ethical commitment. By remaining reflective, transparent, and grounded in my values, I can honor the voices of my participants and contribute meaningfully to the qualitative inquiry. Thank you.